She was reluctant to trust a human. Then she faced the soldier. HFY Sci-Fi Stories. Serenia Kale walked through the long corridor of the space station with measured steps. Her tall, elegant frame moved with grace, but every motion carried a sense of tension. The neutral world of Elora Station was meant to host the peace conference, a fragile gathering of species still recovering from decades of war. Yet Serenia could not shake the unease in her chest. Her people had suffered greatly during the human-led campaigns, and though the war had ended, scars remained, both physical and in memory. She entered the delegation chamber where representatives from various species were already assembling. The air was heavy with expectation, but Serenia's eyes were searching for something else. She did not need to look far. Standing near the entrance, tall and firm in his crisp military uniform, was a human soldier, Captain Daniel Reeve. Her stomach tightened. She had heard of him before. A human known for discipline, for success in dangerous missions, for surviving situations that would break others. But to Serenia, that meant nothing good. To her, all humans were reckless, arrogant, and dangerous. They had nearly destroyed her, homeworld once. How could she trust one to watch over her life now? Reeve approached slowly, his movements precise, calm, and purposeful. "Greetings, Ambassador Kale," he said. His voice was neutral, professional. There was no arrogance in it, no hint of superiority. Yet Serenia's lips pressed into a thin line. "I do not require an escort," she said coldly, her tone slicing through the chamber. "My people have survived without human soldiers." Reeve nodded once, respectful but unflinching. "Orders are orders. I am assigned to protect you, that is all." Serenia's eyes narrowed. She turned her back slightly, indicating that the conversation was over. Yet even as she walked away, a part of her could not ignore his presence. She felt it as a shadow following her, quiet but undeniable. The conference began with formalities, speeches filled with hope. Yet Serenia noticed the subtle undercurrents of tension between the species. Each delegation had its own fears, its own wounds. She was relieved to be among her people, yet uneasy knowing Reeve was nearby, watching, waiting. She did not trust him, and she intended not to. Later, during the transit to the summit hall, Reeve followed at a short distance, observing. Without interrupting, Serenia's mind was busy cataloging potential threats, hostile species, hidden weapons, sabotage. Humans had always been unpredictable in battle, and she feared the worst. Yet something about Reeve's quiet attention made her pause. He did not rush. He did not interfere without cause, and he did not make assumptions. "Ambassador Kale," Reeve said softly at one point. "The corridor ahead has sensors that detect movement. They will slow us down if we proceed without care. I suggest taking the side path." She glanced at him, suspicion in her eyes. "And you know this because?" "Experience," he replied simply. No boast, no unnecessary explanation. She considered his words, the practicality in them, and reluctantly followed. For the first time, she felt a flicker of awareness that maybe not all humans were chaotic. Maybe not all of them were reckless. Still, she would not admit it aloud. She could not. Hours passed, and the delegation moved from chamber to chamber, discussing treaties, logistics, and protocols. Serenia maintained her distance, careful, calculating, always aware of Reeve's silent presence. She noted his posture, the way his eyes scanned the room, not just her, but every corner. He did not rush to act. He did not attempt to impress. Yet she could not ignore the fact that he seemed prepared for anything. When the day ended, the delegates retired to their quarters. Serenia found herself alone on a balcony overlooking the cityscape of Elora Station. Stars shimmered beyond the domed windows, distant, cold, and beautiful. Reeve appeared quietly behind her. "Quiet," he observed. "Yes," she replied, her voice distant. "It is the only place where the noise of politics does not reach." He stood a few steps behind, giving her space. "Rest well. Tomorrow will demand vigilance." Serenia did not answer. She watched him for a long moment, weighing her instincts against the strange feeling she could not name. Humans were dangerous, yes, but there was something in this one, something different. Yet she would not trust him. Not now. Not ever. And yet, as she turned back toward the corridors, Reeves' calm shadow following her, she felt a small, reluctant certainty that this human soldier would be more than a mere annoyance. Whether she liked it or not, he would matter, and she would have to face that fact sooner than she expected. The next morning, the station was alive with movement. Delegates hurried through the wide corridors. Holographic screens projected messages and schedules in multiple languages, and security drones hovered silently, observing every corner. Sirenia Kale moved with the same measured grace as before, but her mind was focused on the summit ahead. Each step was cautious. Every glance carried vigilance. Captain Daniel Reeve walked a few paces behind, as always. She could feel his presence, silent but deliberate. At first it annoyed her, but she had begun to notice his careful observation. He did not follow her too closely, nor did he intrude. He simply remained ready, as if anticipating trouble without disturbing her space. The delegation's transport vehicle awaited them. A sleek armored shuttle designed for high-speed travel across the station's outskirts. Sirenia climbed in, first carefully inspecting the interior. The seats were equipped with restraint belts and emergency pods, and the walls had panels that displayed the shuttle's route and real-time security data. It was well designed, but she could not stop, imagining what might happen if enemies attacked. Reeve boarded quietly, standing near the rear exit. His calm demeanor was unnerving. Humans had a reputation for arrogance in battle, but this one acted almost invisible, like a shadow that could strike if necessary. Sirenia resisted the urge to study him closely. She did not need him to be anything but a guard, yet she could not deny the odd sense of reassurance he provided. The shuttle lifted off smoothly, gliding through the station's artificial atmosphere. Sirenia watched the cityscape shrink below them, towers and lights reflecting like a galaxy of stars. "You trust technology easily," she remarked, her tone sharp but curious. Reeve glanced at her briefly. "Technology is neutral. Humans are not. That is why preparation matters." She frowned. His words were simple, yet there was a weight to them, a truth she could not ignore. Hours passed as the shuttle traveled through uncharted corridors of the station, avoiding known dangers and sensors. Sirenia noticed that Reeve's eyes scanned every readout and every reflection, his mind working faster than most delegates she had seen. When a warning signal flashed on the panel, an unusual motion detected near their path, Reeve immediately took action. He activated the shuttle's emergency protocol, rerouting them through a side corridor that bypassed the danger. Sirenia's heart raced, but she did not speak. She simply followed his instructions, noting how seamlessly he managed the controls, how calm he remained even under potential threat. "Why are you so calm?" she asked finally, unable to keep her curiosity hidden. "Panic does not save lives," he said. "Preparation and observation do." Sirenia considered his words. She had been trained to act quickly, sometimes too quickly, driven by fear and anger. This human, however, was composed, precise, and alert. It made her uneasy and curious at the same time. The shuttle continued, but the tension did not dissipate. Suddenly, the vessel shook violently. Alarms blared as pirates, rogue mercenaries known for attacking high-value convoys, intercepted them. They fired plasma weapons at the shuttle, sparks and smoke filling the interior. Delegates screamed, scrambling for cover. Sirenia's heart pounded, but her instincts told her to stay calm. Reeve moved immediately, positioning himself between her and the incoming threats. With rapid movements, he engaged the shuttle's defensive systems, activating energy shields and automated countermeasures. Sparks flew as the shields absorbed the brunt of the attack. His fingers moved over controls with precision, anticipating each move of the pirates. Sirenia watched in disbelief. Humans were supposed to be reckless, impulsive, unpredictable. Yet here was one acting with unmatched skill, protecting lives without hesitation. The shuttle maneuvered sharply, dodging attacks, and for the first time Sirenia felt a flicker of respect. The pirates eventually retreated, unable to overcome the shuttle's defenses. Smoke cleared, and the alarms faded. Reeve wiped his hands, on his uniform, breathing evenly as if nothing had happened. The other delegates were shaken, but Sirenia noticed something remarkable. Not one had been seriously harmed. "You were expecting disaster," she said quietly, her voice tense but laced with something close to acknowledgement. "I was expecting possible disaster," he corrected. "Preparedness is different from prediction." Sirenia's lips pressed into a thin line. She was still reluctant to trust him, still cautious. But she could not deny that his actions had saved her life and the lives of many others. She felt a strange sensation, something between relief and curiosity. Perhaps humans were not all chaos and recklessness, as her people had believed. Perhaps some were capable of honor and skill beyond expectation. As the shuttle continued its journey, Sirenia remained alert, yet her eyes kept drifting toward Reeve. He did not seek attention, he did not demand trust, but he had earned it silently through action. The thought unsettled her more than she cared to admit. For the first time in many cycles, she wondered if a human, one human, could be different. Not reckless, not arrogant, not a threat. Perhaps he could be an ally, and yet the word trust remained forbidden in her mind. She would not allow herself that luxury. Not yet, but deep inside she knew that the soldier shadowing her every step might be the difference between survival and catastrophe. And that knowledge, whether she accepted it or not, had planted a seed that would grow in ways she could not imagine. The shuttle landed smoothly on a small remote station on the edge of the Allura sector. The station was quiet, almost eerily so, a stark contrast to the bustling corridors of the main world. Sirenia Kale stepped out carefully, her senses alert. The thin artificial gravity made her movements almost gliding, yet she did not relax. Danger could appear anywhere, even in places meant to be safe. Captain Daniel Reeve followed closely, his eyes scanning every shadow, every corner. He did not speak, but the tension in his stance told Sirenia he had noticed something too. Her mind raced through every possibility. Spies, assassins, sabotage. Humans had been unpredictable in war, and while Reeve's presence was oddly calming, it also reminded her of all that could go wrong. The delegation checked into the small, living quarters, and Sirenia insisted on inspecting the security systems herself. She moved through the hallways, noting cameras, sensors, and access panels. Reeve trailed silently, never interfering, but always present. She did not like it, yet she could not ignore the reassurance his presence brought. Hours later, while Sirenia reviewed diplomatic documents in her private room, a faint vibration ran through the floor. At first, she thought it was her imagination. Then the doors hissed as they unlocked. Someone was entering. Before she could react, a shadow lunged from the corridor. A disguised assailant armed with a plasma blade aimed straight for her. Sirenia reacted instinctively, twisting her body and reaching for her own defensive tool. But the attacker was fast. Too fast. A blur of motion intercepted the attack. Reeve had stepped in, catching the assailant's blade with his forearm, sparks flying from the contact. He twisted the attacker off balance, forcing them backward, and with a quick, precise movement, disarmed and restrained them. Sirenia froze, watching in disbelief. "You are unharmed," Reeve said calmly, releasing his grip and stepping back. His uniform had minor scorch marks, but he was otherwise fine. Sirenia's chest heaved. Her instincts told her to remain aloof, to distrust humans still. Yet here he was, protecting her with no hesitation, no thought of glory, only action. She could feel a strange mix of relief and confusion. "You risked yourself for me," she said quietly, her voice almost a whisper. I'm assigned to protect you," he replied. "That is my duty. Risk is part of duty." She wanted to argue, to tell him that she did not need a human to save her life. But the reality was clear. Without him, she might have been seriously injured, perhaps worse. Her pride burned at the thought, but she could not deny the truth. Over the next hours, Reeve stayed nearby, tending to minor wounds on his arm while observing the surroundings. Serenia found herself forced to remain near him for safety. The station's security systems were under strain after the attack, and the delegation could not risk splitting up. She noticed, almost unwillingly, how he remained calm, focused, and aware of every detail. He did not speak unnecessarily, but his presence reassured her in a way she had not anticipated. As the sun-like lights of the station cycled overhead, Serenia found a quiet moment to observe him more closely. His expression rarely changed, but his eyes scanned continuously. His hands were steady even after the scuffle. Every movement, every breath was deliberate. He was human, yes, but not like the reckless soldiers she had expected from the stories. For the first time, she questioned her own assumptions. Perhaps some humans could act with honor, courage, and skill beyond what her people believed. Yet, she would not admit this aloud, not even to herself fully. Trust was a fragile thing, and she had none to spare. "You are different from what I expected," she said finally, her tone cautious, almost defensive. Reeve glanced at her, expression neutral. "Different how?" "You want care," she replied, hesitating. "You act with purpose, not just instinct. You protect without seeking reward." He did not smile, but there was a quiet acknowledgement in his gaze. "That is what duty requires. I do not expect trust in return. I act because it must be done." Serenia studied him silently. The tension that had always been part of her dealings with humans seemed to lessen, just slightly. It was confusing, and yet undeniably real. She had spent years believing humans were dangerous, reckless, and untrustworthy. This human, this soldier, was challenging every prejudice she held. As night fell on the station, she stood by a large window, looking out at the artificial horizon. Reeve remained nearby, vigilant, a silent sentinel. Serenia felt a flicker of gratitude, though she did not give it a name. She could not yet trust him fully, but she knew she was beginning to rely on his presence, his skills, and his judgment. In Nor, that quiet moment, one thought hovered in her mind. If she could survive the next threats that were sure to come, perhaps she would learn that humans could be allies, even in ways her culture had never imagined. And though she would not admit it even to herself, the soldier beside her was already changing the way she saw the galaxy and herself. The next day, the delegation prepared to leave the remote station and continue to the main summit. The shuttle, repaired after the earlier pirate attack, waited silently, engines humming softly. Serenia Kyle moved with her usual careful steps, eyes scanning every detail. She had grown used to the presence of Captain Daniel Reeve, though she still refused to admit that his calm vigilance brought her comfort. The shuttle took off without incident, gliding through the quiet sectors between stations. Serenia reviewed the schedules and notes for the upcoming peace summit, but her attention was partially drawn to Reeve. He sat quietly, hands resting on his knees, eyes alert to the external sensors and internal security systems. She could not help but notice how attuned he was to danger, not just in theory, but in practice. As they approached a narrow corridor between sectors, Reeve's voice broke the silence. "Sensors indicate an unauthorized ship approaching our route. It matches the signature of known mercenary crafts. They may be tracking us." Serenia tensed. She had hoped that after the previous ambush, nothing would threaten them again so soon. "Can we evade them?" she asked, her voice tight with concern. "We can attempt a detour," Reeve said calmly. "It will add time, but it reduces risk." Serenia nodded, trusting his judgment even though she would never admit it aloud. The shuttle altered course, moving into a less traveled corridor. Reeve monitored every sensor, his hands moving over controls with precision. They were not discovered immediately, but Serenia knew that the delay was temporary. Danger often followed humans and aliens alike in these precarious times. Hours later, at a small abandoned relay station, They landed to perform maintenance and allow the delegation a brief rest. The station was quiet, empty, and dimly lit. Serenia found herself walking the corridors with Reeve silently behind her. Something about the stillness made her uneasy. Suddenly, one of the side doors hissed open. A group of masked assailants emerged armed with energy weapons. Their movements were coordinated, trained, and deadly. Serenia's heart raced as she realized they were dealing with a planned attack, not a random encounter. Reeve moved first, placing himself between her and the attackers. He did not shout. He did not panic. He simply calculated, assessed, and acted. Using a combination of precise maneuvers and defensive energy shields, he deflected the first assault while signaling the shuttle's automated defenses. The attackers were caught off guard by his strategy. Serenia fought alongside him, relying on her own combat training, but it was clear that Reeve's experience and calm thinking guided their survival. They moved as a unit, covering each other, anticipating every move. She could feel a strange respect growing in her chest. This human soldier, whom she had vowed not to trust, was proving himself capable beyond any expectation. After several tense minutes, the attackers retreated, clearly outmatched. The relay station's security systems, activated by Reeve, sealed doors and alerted nearby authorities. Serenia breathed deeply, still tense, but unharmed. She looked at Reeve, noting the calm determination in his eyes. He did not smile, did not seek praise, and yet his actions had saved the delegation once again. "You are efficient," she admitted quietly, almost against her will. "I do what must be done," Reeve replied simply. "Efficiency and preparation save lives." Serenia studied him silently. She had assumed that humans were reckless, self-serving, and dangerous. Reeve's actions challenged every assumption she held. Perhaps humans were not a single entity, to be feared. Perhaps some could be allies capable of honor, courage, and intelligence in ways she had never considered. The remainder of the journey to the summit continued without further attacks, but the atmosphere was tense. Serenia could not forget the coordinated assault. Someone had planned it carefully. She could sense the presence of deeper dangers, hidden enemies seeking to disrupt the fragile peace. Reeve remained by her side, vigilant and prepared, silent, yet unyielding. As the shuttle descended toward the summit world, Serenia realized that the events of the past hours had shifted something within her. She still did not trust humans fully, and she would never allow herself to be completely reliant on one. But she could not deny the truth. Captain Daniel Reeve had proven his skill, his courage, and his unwavering dedication to protection. For the first time in cycles, Serenia allowed herself to consider the possibility that humans, at least this one, might not be the reckless destroyers she had believed. Perhaps they were capable of strength, discipline, and loyalty that rivaled any alien species she had known. As the shuttle touched down, Serenia straightened her posture, ready to face the summit and its challenges. Reeve stood beside her, silent, steady, a reminder that preparation and courage could make a difference even in a galaxy still scarred by war. And though she would not admit it aloud, she felt a strange sense of reassurance. The soldier at her side had proven that sometimes even those from a species she mistrusted could become unexpected allies, and that trust, though still fragile, might grow when tested by fire. The summit world shimmered in the pale light of its distant star, casting silver reflections across the massive city that would host the peace talks. Serenia Kale moved through the crowded corridors of the assembly hall, her sharp eyes noting every delegate, every subtle gesture. She had survived pirate ambushes, assassination attempts, and coordinated attacks, yet her heart still thudded with tension. Danger lingered, unseen but real. Captain Daniel Reeve walked behind her, quiet as ever. His presence was steady, a constant shadow that both irritated and reassured her. She had begun to see him differently, skilled, careful, courageous, but there remained a part of her that resisted fully trusting a human. She reminded herself constantly. He was human, unpredictable, and capable of errors. Hours into the summit, Serenia noticed subtle irregularities. Communications from other delegates had been delayed. Security reports contained anomalies that suggested hidden manipulation. She frowned, her instincts alert. Something was wrong. Reeve approached her quietly. "You seem concerned?" he observed. "I am," she admitted, her voice low. "There are disruptions in communications and surveillance. Someone is trying to manipulate this summit." He nodded, his expression calm yet intense. "Do you suspect anyone?" "I do not know yet," she said. "But I will find out. We cannot allow sabotage to undo what we have worked for." As the day continued, Serenia observed Reeve interacting with the summit security systems. He moved with precision, checking logs, verifying signals, and noticing subtle discrepancies. She could not deny his skill, yet an uneasy thought crept into her mind. What if humans like him were involved in the manipulations? Later, while reviewing a secure terminal, Serenia discovered hidden transmissions. At first glance, they seemed to implicate Reeve. A series of messages, coded and encrypted, suggested that someone had placed him in a compromising position. Her chest tightened as betrayal burned through her. Could the one human she had begun to respect actually be a traitor? Her mind raced. Years of mistrust toward humans surged back, filling her with anger and fear. She wanted to confront him, to demand the truth, but she also feared what she might discover. Still, she could not remain silent. She found him in the observation chamber overlooking the summit city below. The soft lights reflected off his uniform, highlighting the calm determination in his posture. Her voice was sharp, her eyes narrow. "Explain these transmissions," she demanded, placing the encrypted messages on the table between them. Reeve glanced at the data, his expression unreadable. He did not flinch, nor did he appear angry. "I cannot explain something I did not do," he said simply. "But I will tell you this. Appearances are not always truth. Be careful in what you believe." Serenia's tension increased. "They point to you. They show orders given under your name. Are you lying to me?" "I am not," he replied. "Do not trust anyone too easily, not even what you see with your own eyes. The truth is often hidden behind deception." Her heart pounded as confusion and doubt collided with the respect she had begun to feel for him. Could she trust this human? He had saved her life countless times, yet now the evidence suggested he could be a threat. Her mind fought against itself, torn between instinct and observation. She began, hesitating. "I do not know what to believe." "You believe in what you see, not in assumptions," he said calmly. "Watch carefully, think critically, then act." Serenia studied him silently. Despite her fear, there was an undeniable honesty in his eyes. He did not flinch, he did not plead, he did not manipulate. His warning was simple, clear, and unyielding, yet doubt still gnawed at her. She had grown to rely on his skill and presence, and now that reliance was challenged by uncertainty. For the remainder of the day, Serenia maintained a careful distance. She observed Reeve, noted his actions, and watched how he interacted with security systems and other personnel. Despite the apparent evidence against him, every action he took was consistent with the protection of the delegation, the summit, and her own safety. By evening, a quiet moment presented itself. Serenia stood on a balcony overlooking the illuminated city below. Reeve appeared beside her, silently watching the distant lights. She did not speak, but the silence carried the weight of their shared experience. The battles, the ambushes, the constant vigilance. Finally, she whispered, "I want to believe you, but the evidence can be falsified." Reeve interrupted softly. "Truth is earned, not given. Watch carefully, act wisely, and you will know who is loyal." Serenia looked at him, long and hard. She wanted to trust him, wanted to believe in his honesty and skill. And yet the shadow of doubt lingered. The war had taught her to expect betrayal, and humans, she had learned, could be dangerous. Still, even as doubt gnawed at her mind, she realized something undeniable. She had survived more than once because of him. He had proven his courage, skill, and determination. And for the first time, she understood that trust was not blind. It was tested, earned, and confirmed through actions, not words. As the night deepened, Serenia made a quiet decision. She would not fully trust him yet, but she would watch, study, and rely on the evidence of his actions. Perhaps she thought that was the closest thing to trust she could allow herself, for now. And as she turned back toward the summit hall, she knew that the trials ahead would test them both. The shadows were closing in, and the true challenges of trust, loyalty, and survival were only beginning. The summit hall was filled with representatives from dozens of worlds, all gathered under the glittering domed ceiling of the city's central council chamber. Serenia Kale moved among them, her senses alert to every glance, every subtle shift of energy. After the previous day's discoveries, she had grown cautious, aware that hidden enemies could strike at any moment. Captain Daniel Reeve remained at her side, silent and steady. She still wrestled with doubt, but she had learned to observe his actions closely. Despite the lingering mistrust, she could not deny that he had consistently protected her, anticipated danger, and reacted with precision. He was human, yes, but his skill and courage were undeniable. Without warning, alarms echoed through the hall. Security drones whirred to life as hidden devices emitted a sudden pulse of energy. Lights flickered and the delegates froze in panic. Serenia's instinct screamed that this was no random malfunction. It was sabotage, a deliberate attack meant to throw the summit into chaos. Reeve acted instantly. He moved to position himself between Serenia and the nearest exits, scanning the hall for threats. His eyes caught subtle movements, concealed weapons, suspicious figures attempting to blend in with the crowd. He barked quick orders to security personnel, directing them with calm authority that cut through the panic. Serenia's heart raced, but she followed his instructions, finding herself relying on him in ways she had refused before. Together, they moved through the hall, deflecting attacks and guiding delegates to safety. Reeve's tactical mind was unmatched. He anticipated the enemy's moves, used the chamber's architecture to create protective barriers, and coordinated with automated defenses to contain the danger. Amid the chaos, Serenia realized the truth she had been reluctant to admit. She trusted him. Not blindly, but in a way that mattered. His actions spoke louder than any words, and for the first time, she felt a sense of security in a galaxy still scarred by war. The attackers revealed themselves, a coalition of extremists and war profiteers determined to derail the fragile peace. They were heavily armed and highly trained, but Reeve moved among them with precision and courage. Serenia fought alongside him, using her own skills to disarm and defend. Together, they formed a seamless team, each movement complementing the others. During the most dangerous moment, one of the extremists targeted Serenia directly. Before she could react, Reeve leapt in, deflecting the weapon with a shield pulse and striking the attacker down with calculated force. Sparks flew, and for a moment, everything seemed frozen in tension. When the last of the attackers fell, the hall was silent, filled only with the hum of cooling machinery and the heavy breaths of the delegates. Serenia stared at him, her chest heaving. You saved me," she said, her voice trembling with a mix of awe and relief. "I protect because it must be done," he replied, his voice steady, almost gentle. "I do not ask for trust. I act because it is necessary." She shook, her head slightly realizing that trust was not given, it was earned through action. And he had earned it over and over again in ways she had never expected. As the emergency subsided, Serenia and Reeve worked together to secure the hall, ensure the safety of the delegates, and identify the conspirators. Evidence emerged that the transmissions she had seen previously, the ones that seemed to implicate Reeve, were clever forgeries designed to divide and distract. Someone had tried to manipulate her perception, to weaken her reliance on the one human she had begun to respect. The realization hit her hard. Her mistrust had almost clouded her judgment. Reeve had never betrayed her. He had acted with unwavering loyalty and skill, even when suspicion could have divided them. The lesson was clear. True trust was revealed in action, not assumptions. Later, in a quiet chamber overlooking the city, Serenia stood beside Reeve. The weight of the day pressed upon them both, yet there was a sense of calm now that the immediate threat had passed. The delegates were safe, the conspirators captured, and the summit could continue. "You were right," she said softly, her voice uncharacteristically sincere. "Not all appearances tell the truth. Actions reveal it." Reeve nodded, expression neutral but calm. "Actions and preparation protect lives. That is all anyone can promise." Serenia considered his words. She had spent years mistrusting humans, convinced that they were reckless and dangerous. But this one had shown her something different: courage, skill, and loyalty beyond expectation. Perhaps humanity was not a single monolith of chaos. It was capable of greatness, of honor, and of steadfast resolve when it mattered most. As night fell over the summit city, Serenia allowed herself a quiet acknowledgement. She trusted him not blindly, but fully in the ways that counted. And she understood more deeply than ever that a human's value was not measured by past mistakes or cultural reputation, but by the choices they made when confronted with danger. She turned to look at Reeve, who remained vigilant even as the hall quieted. In that moment, she understood something essential. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but their unpredictability was tempered by courage, skill, and the unyielding will to protect what mattered. For Serenia Kale, the soldier at her side, had changed everything she believed about humans. The summit hall was quiet now, the echo of chaos replaced by cautious relief. Delegates were regrouping, their conversations hushed but filled with hope. Serenia Kale walked through the chamber, observing the aftermath. Broken displays had been repaired, security measures reinforced, and the conspirators were secured by the authorities. Peace, fragile as it was, had been preserved. Captain Daniel Reeve remained at her side, vigilant yet calm. Serenia no longer felt the cold tension of mistrust she had carried since first seeing him. He had proven himself again and again, not through words, but through action. His courage, discipline, and unwavering protection had earned her respect, admiration, and quietly, trust. She approached the central platform where the assembly of leaders would resume discussions. Her steps were deliberate, her tall form casting a graceful shadow under the summit's lights. When she reached the podium, she paused, looking over the crowd. The room fell silent, sensing that she would speak. "My people have suffered greatly," Serenia began, her voice steady, carrying across the chamber. "We have lived with fear, loss, and the scars of war. But today, we have seen courage. We have seen the dedication of those who act not for power, not for glory, but to protect life itself. One among us has shown what it means to stand firm in the face of danger, to act with honor when others would falter." Her eyes met Reeve's. He stood silently, attentive, unassuming, yet every gesture conveyed readiness and resolve. She took a deep breath. Captain Daniel Reeve, a human soldier, has proven that humans are capable of courage, loyalty, and integrity. Today he saved lives, preserved this summit, and reminded us all that trust is earned through action. A ripple of acknowledgement passed through the delegates. Some whispered, others nodded, but all recognized the truth in her words. Humans had a reputation of recklessness, yet here was one who defied every expectation. After the formalities, Serenia found herself alone with Reeve in a quiet corridor. The noise of the summit faded behind them. For a moment neither spoke, simply standing side by side, a strange companionship born from shared danger and mutual respect. "You have earned my respect," she said finally, her voice soft but sincere. "Not blindly, not easily, but through your actions. I cannot deny that you have changed the way I see your people." Reeve's expression remained calm, but there was a flicker of acknowledgement in his eyes. "I do not ask for trust," he said simply. I act because it is necessary. That is all I can promise. Sirenia studied him, her mind reflecting on the long path that had brought them here. From the first meeting, when she had bristled at his presence to pirate attacks, assassination attempts, and now the chaos of the summit, he had proven time and again that he could be counted on. She realized that trust was not about history or prejudice. It was about observing choices and actions in critical moments. I do not trust humanity entirely, she admitted, a small smile playing at her lips. But I trust you. Reeve inclined, his head slightly a gesture of acknowledgement rather than triumph. That is enough, he said. They walked through the summit city together, observing the repairs and the rebuilding of confidence among the delegates. There was a sense of cautious optimism in the air, a feeling that the horrors of the past could be overcome if species chose courage and cooperation over fear and suspicion. Sirenia felt a warmth she had not expected. Humans, she realized, were not all the same. Their recklessness could be tempered by discipline, their pride by purpose, their unpredictability by courage. One soldier had demonstrated what many might doubt, that humans at their best could inspire, protect, and lead with honor. Later, as the summit concluded, Sirenia returned to the observation deck overlooking the city lights. Reeve stood beside her, scanning the horizon for any sign of lingering threat. She glanced at him, noticing the subtle details, the way he remained vigilant even when danger had passed, the calm in his posture, the quiet strength in his presence. You were right, she said softly. Actions matter more than words. You have shown me that humans can be remarkable. Reeve looked at her but did not smile, simply nodding. Remarkable is earned, he said. Through choices, through courage, through what we do when it matters most. Sirenia nodded, feeling the weight of those words. She understood now that trust, loyalty, and respect were built through trials and proven in moments of danger. Reeve had proven himself time and again, and in doing so, had changed the way she saw humanity. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel something rare, confidence in another, confidence that the soldier beside her would act rightly even in chaos. She did not need to trust all humans. She did not need to erase her caution, but she could trust him, and that trust, earned through courage and action, was enough. As the stars above the summit city shone through the transparent dome, Sirenia, Kale stood quietly, knowing that the galaxy was uncertain, full of dangers and challenges yet to come. But she also knew that humans, at their best, could rise to meet those challenges with honor. And at her side, the soldier remained, ready, steadfast and undeniably human, but in ways she would never forget.